My name's Dan. I run a YouTube channel called Backcountry Builds. It's sort of an automotive YouTube channel that focuses on fixing and working on projects and restorations, anything from my 1968 Chevelle, which I've been working on religiously, to ATVs. This summer, fixed up this 400DX, got it for $1,200. We also had a lot of fun, picked up some jet skis for free, actually. Got all the three of those running. Check out that video. That's my truck towing it along. We got them running and took them down the Gasconade River here in Missouri. And it actually ended up selling them because Sarah wanted a boat. So we're able to achieve that goal for almost free. We're able to sell the boats and sell the jet skis and purchase the boats outright. Had a lot of fun scooting around the Ozarks. The boat proved to be extremely reliable and a ton of fun. Also made a decision to purchase a Mustang earlier this summer. We got some videos on that. Anyways, we'll get back to the video here. And my 1968 Chevelle, it's a SS396 car. It's a real super sport, but somebody tore out the big block and left me with a small block and a turbo 350. So if you saw in the last video, I went ahead and rolled the body out from under the frame, vice versa. And what you'll see here is me tearing the differential out of the back of the car. Just trying to get the frame down to bare frame. That way I can do this right. I have a suspicion that the frame was a little bit tweaked. The car had a little bit of front end damage.
And this thing's getting lighter by the minute.
As I talked about earlier, found some motorcycles, got those for cheap. Actually ended up selling them for a little bit of profit and was able to afford all of the sandblasting and powder coating you'll see later on in this video. After lots and lots of PB Blaster, I was able to get all the front end suspension parts out.
Lower ball joints are out. I guess it might have been time to replace those. Oh man. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull this power steering pump off, and this should be the only thing holding all this linkage on. Alright, power steering pump and steering components are out. I feel like I just wrestled a baby deer carcass.
As you see here, this is what the hardware is supposed to look like. This is what the power steering pump box bolts ended up looking like. One of them actually completely rusted in there and became one with the power steering box, so that was kind of interesting. So right here, just tearing off the whole right knuckle and suspension control arm assembly, spindle I should say, getting the coil out right now. The shocks and everything on this car just shot. It's all beat up. But as you'll see right here, I'm pretty excited. Got the dogs out there and making a ton of progress in just a couple days here.
Alright, about to take the old 400 out for a rip, but it's getting closer. Frame is getting smaller. Alright, that's it. She's naked. Nothing left. Time to, whew. Time for the fun stuff to start. Let's go.
Forced Sarah to help me carry this frame around and dragging it out of the garage. And I was able to track down a frame repair shop that specializes in automotive frames in Springfield. So as you'll see in the next clip, you'll see a happy Oakley being right in the way, and Jack's using the frame as a jungle gym. But I forced Sarah to drag the frame out the next morning, and we threw it on the trailer and towed him out to the greater Springfield area to Billy's Frame and Restoration. Frame and Collision.
Alright, well, old girl is all strapped down, taking off early in the morning. Bring this thing to the frame shop. I am so excited, and she ain't going nowhere. Nowhere. It pays to have good straps. And we're off.
It's about a 2-hour drive each way, so definitely a lot of time invested in getting this thing to the right people. So once I got the frame dropped off, I started tearing the differential apart and just wanted to get it overhauled. So I pulled the axles out and ended up bringing it to a shop just to have them go through it. And I didn't want to get too in depth with it. I don't exactly know what I'm doing when it comes to tolerances on these things. So for about $500, complete overhaul, and I was able to learn a bunch about these things. And you pull the pin out, and I'll tap the axles inward. Then I'm able to pull those C-clips out and pull the axles out.
Give that a little tap. And then if I look in here, I might have to spin the axle a little bit. In fact, it was. Here's one side.
This car is getting since it's getting an LS swap, I really didn't want to go back to the whole drum brake setup. So that's part of the reason why I'm tearing this apart so much, and the fact that it's all rusty. Just wanted to clean up the rear end. So I went ahead and pulled these bearings out just because I could do that myself before I took it to the shop. So you'll see right here. And then we get the call that the frame's ready for pickup.
All right, framework's done. About to pick it up. There it is. Just kidding. There it is.
So I don't know why he decided to put this thing on cardboard outside, but he's given an explanation on the damage that had ensued. So I had found a crack right here.
No more boogers.
That was my main concern, and just making sure the frame was straight. So he'll get into the details on how it was kinked backwards and got the diamond.
It pulled this way.
Yeah, right. This got hit on the wheel. So it takes this rail back.
Got it.
That's what we call diamond. And see, there's no crossover bars. You have that one back there, two of them back there, and just this one here. So you don't have that many crossover bars to help hold the stabilize it.
Got it.
So it goes diamond here, and it jerks the front end over here, and it usually goes up, which is exactly what it was like.
Gotcha. Because it kinked it up like you said.
It brought the front end up, and also the twist of the back. That it twists the whole thing. There's nothing here. You don't have the crossover ladders on it that a normal frame, these newer frames,
modern ones.
Yeah.
So I was pretty intrigued on how this all worked and how they got their numbers, and he takes me in the shop and points to the schematics, how far off it was, and what changes they had made. It's pretty interesting stuff.
See, it's over.
I guess this thing had taken a pretty big hit to the front driver's side corner.
Back farther because it was crushed right there. See it right there?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we got it. Flip it on the.
Wow.
Yeah, we went ahead and switched this around a little bit on a different mounting point.
Okay.
Because we had to pull it down, but that's perfect. That's like within a millimeter.
Holy crap.
So I was able to make an appointment same day, so I went straight from the frame shop to the sandblasting place. Worked out great.
And we're off to get sandblasted.
So here's you see the frame getting moved to the sandblasting table, and I was a little skeptical on how good this was going to turn out. The guy seemed like an interesting individual, to say the least. So here's how it started out. Here's the before, and here's the after. Not bad.
You're a smart man then. Wow. It looks brand new.
Well, once you get it painted and everything, it will.
Oh yeah.
Get it primed,
Very cool.
get it primed and painted.
Yeah, it's going straight back home into the garage. So do some more sanding. Wow. That's so cool.
Now here's where things get a little bit dicey. I'm all excited because I got the sandblasted frame home, and I started sanding it down just because I wanted it to turn out perfect and be all buttery smooth for paint or powder coat, whatever I decide. And now that it had been sandblasted and it's a lot smoother, here's what the passenger side looks like underneath. Now the frame's upside down. I found a crack. So I think sandblasting might have exposed that. Here's the passenger side, right underneath the control arm connects. Here's the driver's side. So that's where that kink had been. So I called the frame guy back and said, hey, we need to address this. And he was super cool about it. So I actually sanded this down a little bit more in the meantime until he could work on it and I could get it there. You'll see how much smoother it is after after some wet sanding. I'm not sure if wet sanding is the right answer. If I were to leave it sitting for too long, I'm sure it could develop more rust, if you will. But pretty confident that it really smoothing it out, and I hope that all the work that I did sanding this thing down by hand around the whole frame shows. It sure as hell does in this clip, and I really hope the finish comes out the way I'm hoping and expecting it to, with paint or powder coat. So dropped the frame back off. In the meantime, I went ahead and pressed out some of the rear end bushings, which you'll see right here. Pretty excited to get those out. I really thought I'd have to take them to a machine shop, but these ones came right out. Not the control arms did not. So this is me going back to pick the frame back up again after the frame guy went ahead and made some adjustments. So needless to say, I was not very satisfied. So you see that crack that he filled went away, but the other ones I showed you were still there. So unfortunately, I learned a valuable lesson that not all frame guys are professional welders. So this is what it had looked like before, the picture I showed you. And he did a great job right here, and it turned out great. Fortunately, in welding sort of behind where the control arm connects, it penetrated great, and that's the original factory weld on the other side, and this is what the new weld turned out to be, and I was not impressed and not satisfied. So I brought it to a professional welder, and he went ahead and made some big changes and sort of straightened the frame out, sort of straightened the welds out. And, in the meantime, I went ahead and got all the control arms that I mentioned and got all the bushings pressed out in the machine shop and started cleaning up the rear end the right way. So degreased it all down. Still not satisfied, obviously. It was pretty rusty, and I thought, all right, it's time to start grinding this thing down. So you'll see this takes off years and years of just gross grease and gear oil and road grime. You can really see it starting to have a good effect on those axle tubes. And about to drop all these parts off to get sandblasted. Got to the sandblasting place, and here's the finished product. So stay tuned. All these parts you see that are newly sandblasted, they're actually recently been dropped off and are getting powder coated as we speak. So stay tuned for the project. Subscribe if you want to see what happens next.